Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 194.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I am your host, Jay Massey, and I'm glad that you are here today because one thing we are going to do today is we are going to absolutely, positively, unequivocally destroy your paradigm of what you think it takes to retire. In fact, you probably may not even understand what retirement is. And most importantly, I'm willing to bet that there's one, two, and maybe more of you who, after listening to this episode, will probably say to yourself, you know what? Maybe I can retire today. Here's why I say that. Today's guest, they have been traveling the globe since 1991. Now, for some of you, 1991, I know was the year you were born, but for others of you, you remember where you were, you remember what you were doing, and you remember that you were probably still working. Well, they stopped. 91. That was a while ago. And here's the thing. They've been traveling the globe. They currently have 3 to 4 different places that they call home across the world, which I think is awesome. And they're coming to us today from one of the most beautiful places, according to them. Maybe we should get on a plane and go find out. Lake Atitlan in Panajachel, Guatemala. Help me welcome Billy and Akaisha Kaderli. Billy and Akaisha, you there?
Yes, we are here. Hello.
How are you guys doing?
Great. Thank you.
That's good. That's good. And I'm guessing that where you are right now in Guatemala, you're not planning on staying there very long.
We never know. We're always looking for airline deals, and so if something comes up or an opportunity arises, our bags are just about packed.
I think that's awesome. Like, so if you get an email that says, "Hey, 50% off," all the way to Morocco, you're like, I've never been there. Why not?
Exactly. If the weather's good and they suit our clothes, we're gone.
Oh, I like it. If the weather is good, that's literally that's the qualification. If the weather is good first,
weather has to be good, and then the next thing is we got to have access to good food.
Good food, got it. Okay,
Yeah.
All right, cool. That sounds. It almost sounds like a reality TV show that we could come up with right there. Okay.
We have been perfecting our skill, like you said, for about 25 years now, and what we have found is that what we gravitate to places where we call it's easy living. And that is that if we need to go shopping, if we need to see a doctor, if we need to, for internet access, if we need transportation, it's all pretty much right outside our door.
Got it.
And we, around here they have what's called tuk-tuks. And it's a little 3-wheeled vehicle that'll run you anywhere around town for about 60 or 70 cents. And they're like a little bunch of little bugs that are running all around the town, and it makes it very, very easy to be here.
Wow, that's awesome. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I typically, because I like to start off with a very similar question for everybody, and I tend to think of, today's entrepreneurs a lot like yesterday's superheroes, and you guys are entrepreneurs of a different sort, but entrepreneurs nonetheless. We still, very similarly to any other superhero, we go around, we occasionally get dressed up, we put on a cape and sometimes a mask, and we use our special skills and abilities to help people, solve a problem, achieve a certain level of, expertise, or, just make their quality of life better. And I see you guys very, very similarly in that same way. You figured something out, and now you're sharing it with everybody. However, before that superhero was super, they were just a, regular guy. Sometimes they got bit by a spider, and that's what it took to make them super. But at some point, they were just, maybe they were just a news reporter. Here's my point. Every superhero has an origin story, and so does an entrepreneur. So before you guys were gallivanting across the globe, traveling based upon weather and food choices, what is it that makes you guys up, or more importantly, who is Billy and Akaisha?
Well, we met about 36 years ago, and we started traveling immediately. On a little bit of time and budget that we had, and we realized that we were both travelers. And I was a French chef at the time, and we saved up a bunch of money, or as much as we could back then, and we went to France where I continued my training. And then we came back to Santa Cruz, California, and purchased a restaurant. So we immediately got a business degree in restaurant finances. And as time progressed, I was approached by Dean Witter Reynolds at the time, which is a brokerage house on the West Coast, and they tried to recruit me. And after about a year of trying, I finally accepted. And so I got into being a stockbroker, in which after a few years they made me a branch manager. And so we have entrepreneurial blood in the entrepreneurial blood in our system, and we believe in self-reliance and self-sufficiency. And so we created our own pension basically through these years. And it got to a point where we were working our butts off like so many other people are. I know that's an overused phrase, but we weren't seeing each other. And so we started drifting apart in our lives. And at some point, we just had to sit down meeting and say, look, something's got to change. And it was at that point that I came up with this idea of basically selling the house, selling the cars, selling the artwork, and just cashing out, investing the money. We took stock of what we had, and we figured we could do it. And so we did. We took the leap, and that was 25 years ago.
We were 38 years old.
We were 38 years old, right?
You know, there's probably a subset of people who are listening who are right now mad at you that you said you did that at 38. But that's okay. We're gonna keep listening, guys. Keep listening. It gets better. There's good news at the end of this. I guess I was actually kind of curious when you were mentioning that you met. Did you guys meet? Is this we met on a cruise ship and just kind of kept traveling?
Well, there's a story. I'll let Akaisha tell you that one.
Well, actually, it's sort of a long story, which we'll have to share over a glass of wine sometime, Jay. But we met when we were both pretty young, and Billy had moved from Cincinnati, Ohio. Like he said, he was a chef, and he was looking for ways to increase his business. He wanted to own a restaurant, and he came into my office. I was working for the state parks of California, and he came into the office, and that's how we met. But being the kind of guy he was, he didn't ask me out until he had a job. So that took a couple of months, and he finally became a chef of the best restaurant in town, and that's when he asked me out. And we just started traveling together from then on, and realized that both travel and food were important to both of us, and we connected on that level. And we're both entrepreneurs, we're both self-reliant, we are both frugal in terms of we don't waste our money. We've never been in debt, and so we just found a lot of different places where our matrix worked together, and that's why we hooked up and stayed hooked up.
Yeah, I get that. And plus, I mean, you found a guy that cooks. That's
I
kind of
know.
cool. I'm like, dude, I don't want my wife to hear this. She might get an idea or something that could not be good for me. Anyway, here's what I find interesting. I find it interesting that you were starting on this path, but yet at some point you came to the realization, like many people have, that even some of you that are listening, you come to the realization, this ain't working. That's part of the reason why you're listening, is because you're like, this ain't working. I am looking for a solution. You guys came to that same solution, or same conclusion, and you made a different choice. Sometimes people go, well, I don't know what to do, and they just go back home or go back to work, and they just resign themselves, or hey, I know, let me go back to school and get a better job. You said, no, we're going to do something completely different, sell it all, and go a different direction. To me, that takes an immense amount of courage, to say the least. So I got to know where that level of courage comes from.
Oh,
Confidence.
Self-reliance.
Yeah, self-reliance, confidence.
Dreams.
It wasn't like everybody asked us, well, sometimes, don't worry, you can always come back to work. And we said, what? That was never the plan. I penciled it out on the back of an envelope. This is before computers and spreadsheets, Jay. And, the back of the envelope calculation worked. And so we took a look at our finances and we said, how much is enough? What are we doing this for? Busting our tail every day and not having a life together. And so it got to that point where we took stock of our finances and realized that if we can earn a certain amount per year on our investments based on history, we should be fine. And in fact, that's what's happened.
We were realizing that the dreams that motivated us, which was travel and trying new things and being out in the world with a lot of brand new experiences, those dreams were dying. We were working 80 hours a week easily, both of us. And we weren't spending enough time together. We weren't doing enough travel. We weren't learning new skills, and they were dying. And so we realized that without our dreams, we were dying as a couple and as individuals. And I think when you asked about where we found the courage, it was like either die and get old and creaky or just make a change. We were kind of like forced out of the banana peel. We're squished right out is what happened. And we had to make that choice. Personally, we had to make that choice.
I get that. I just want to be clear, though. Did you say old and creaky?
Yes, we were 36, 38, and we didn't want to be old and
creaky. Okay, all right. Old and creaky. That's a new description that I was not expecting under any circumstances. Okay, but you mentioned something, Billy, that I think would be very helpful for everybody to understand from a skill set or just understanding how to do because you did it, again, no computer. No spreadsheet. There was no iPhone. There was no iPad. There was no Android device. You said a back of the envelope calculation. How does one do that back of the envelope calculation in your opinion? Because I'm guessing if some people take the time to do this calculation, they may actually find themselves in a similar position to where you guys were, and they might be able to make some changes as well.
Well, it's pretty basic, Jay. You find out your net worth. You add up all your assets, and everything that's sellable, anything that you have that is sellable and has value, and you subtract out what you owe, your liabilities, and that'll get you your net worth. Now, once you know your net worth, now you need to calculate how much you're spending per year. And so you can do that. Today it's very simple to do, but back then we had to go through our old brokerage statements and see who we wrote checks to and how much they were and add them all up manually. And so we came up with a figure back then that was around $20,000 US. And so we figured that with a portfolio of about $500,000, we could easily generate 20,000 out of that to live on plus inflation. And so that's basically what that's the back of the envelope calculation right there.
Got it. Now, you actually hit on the topic that I was going to bring up if you didn't, because I know for many people who just listening, you lost them as soon as you said $20,000 a year. Nobody today is going, okay, that's not going to work. And everyone in California just said, dude, that's what I do a month. So we've got some probably some lifestyle choices to changes to make, but we also have to account for that silent killer, that inflation number. How did you at that time come up, or how do you still today account for that in what it is that you're doing? I'm curious.
Okay, well, let me back up to the 20,000 figure again. Now, when I say that, what you have to strip out of your expenses are, number one, all work-related expenses. In our case, you're talking shoes, suits, dry cleaning, whatever. We had a gardener. We took him out of the equation. House payments, you're not going to have them because in our case, we sold our home. That meant house insurance, anything, car insurance. We got rid of the cars, anything like that. We backed out of the equation. And I think if people were honest with themselves, what they actually spend on themselves, they will find out is very little.
Yeah, you're probably right. about that. At least when I look at I have a favorite pair of shoes, and I'm sure my wife would love me to get rid of them. However,
Mhm.
they just fit so right, and I don't want to let them go. And I probably need to buy a new pair of shoes, but that's a whole nother story. So,
Sure.
how did you, though? I mean, because one of the things I know often when I'm working with individuals is their concern is, I see what I have today, but I'm concerned I'm going to live too long and run out, especially
Mhm.
once I account for inflation.
Right.
I'm got to know how you overcame that challenge.
Okay. First of all, for the back of the envelope figure, and what I still use today is roughly 3% inflation rate. Now, a lot of people can argue that's not correct. I mean, I hear it all over. But if you use the official government statistics, it's actually much lower than that. But I use 3%, again, back of the envelope calculation. And through the years of investing, I realized that the S&P 500 companies, the 500 largest companies in the world, their returns outpace inflation. And so if I can own them and participate in their growth, I'm going to be able to cover inflation as well, plus make some money on the stock. And that's basically it. I'm letting these corporations take care of the inflation aspect for us.
Got it. I get it. I got it. Excellent. So there's got to be some sort of an equity play at some point in this plan, and I'm assuming this is something that you have to pay attention to frequently,
We do because
or
it's
at
my
least
it's
regularly.
it's my hobby and whatever, but not so much anymore. I mean, we don't invest in individual issues. We use index funds, no load index funds. And so the expense ratios on those are very small. And, a lot of people, it kind of depends on how tight your budget is, but a lot of people, they monitor their accounts once a week or once a month. So it's not
Got it.
something that you have to do every day.
Got it. No, no, totally understood. I love the idea. Now, for those that are wondering, how much time do you spend, say, because right now they're thinking, okay, this sounds great, but I live in, like I said, California, New York, Hawaii. How much time do you actually spend, like, in the U.S. versus abroad or in other places? Or in order to make this happen, do I absolutely have to say, you know what, I'm not coming to the U.S. anymore?
No. When we originally retired in '91, we went to an island in the Caribbean to decompress, and that was called Nevis in the West Indies.
Been
And
there.
so
Love it.
it's a great place. It's a beautiful place.
Beautiful. Why?
And
You know what's so funny is that I've never heard anyone say Caribbean and anything other than beautiful. Those two words are always in the same sentence.
very true. However, on Nevis, if you want a hamburger, you better order it yesterday because things move slow there, Mon.
Island time, indeed.
Island
Island
time.
time. Yes.
And so that was the wall that I needed to hit so that I didn't go run off with some other business idea um, and get involved. And so that's where we started. Then we went back to the U.S. and we bought a fifth wheel trailer and a used fifth wheel trailer and a used 1-ton pickup. And we traveled the Western U.S. for I don't know, a couple
3 or
of
4
years.
years. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So during that period of traveling, um, we realized that if we travel quickly, we're going to burn up cash because of transportation expenses, gasoline, oil, etc. But if we go slow, if we stay a week, month, or whatever in certain locations, we can bring our expenses down. And so, yes, we were able to do it in the U.S. Um, and it was just until about '93 we got invited to come to Mexico. And we originally went there for 2 months and we stayed 4 years. And
Wow.
it was then that we realized that look, the lifestyle can be better, the cost of living less, and we can have more fun in places other than the U.S. We still go back there from time to time. We do have a small place in Arizona, but for us right now, being out of the U.S. is advantageous to us. We could make it in the U.S., but there's no doubt we know that we've done it in the past. But it's just more interesting for us in these other cultures.
I wanted to say something about the expenses in a household. The highest expenses in most households is your housing, your transportation, your taxes, and what you paid for food. If you can modify your housing expense for instance, house sitting, or like we did, we RV'd for a while and stayed in campgrounds or stayed dry camp for a while, something like that. If you can modify any of those expenses, you can live anywhere. And we know people who do stay in the States for long lengths of times, and they do it by house sitting. So that's an excellent way to, you can sit anywhere, San Francisco, New York, at the beach, in a tiny town. People go years, just go from house to house to house.
Yes, I like this. You're bringing you're creating possibility where there was at one point possibly a prison, at the end of the day, by this new paradigm shift and figuring it out. So I've got a fundamental question for you. Our government would have us believe retirement has something to do with how old we are. Clearly, that's not the case, especially for you guys. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, if I asked you what is retirement, and for you to give us a definition, what would you guys say?
We like to call it financial independence because retirement sometimes brings along a mental image of you sitting in a rocking chair or visiting the grandkids or doing not a whole lot of anything. You're no longer called up on the phone for your advice, or, you're not active and involved. We like to call it financial independence. And we think that there's no age limit on that. We encourage people to become financially independent as soon as possible and go from there. So it's doing what you want to do, when you want to do it, and for as long as you want to do it. That's what we think financial independence is.
Once you're financially independent, then you can choose to work or not to work. And, if you want to work, fine. Then work's not a 4-letter word to us. People need it to structure their lives. But once you're financially independent, then if you have a bad day with a boss, you've got options.
And not to mention the digital nomads. People can work all over the world now because they have online businesses or they run things through a website or something like that. We know a lot of digital nomads, and that means you can travel and live anywhere. So there's lots of ways that you can utilize the talents that you have, the skills that you have.
A friend of ours that we met here is a programmer for Cisco, and he lives here. And he says, I work 8 hours a day, but I just do it online.
Yeah, that totally understood, and that's what you mentioned in terms of a digital nomad. That's exactly how we've managed to structure our business, the real estate side as well. And that's it's the double-edged sword anytime I go anywhere, because my wife knows we don't really have to come back home. And I'm like, yeah.
Getting closer.
Yeah, right. It's literally like we don't really. Once you get there, it's like, man, I don't want to go back home. We could stay, honey. Yeah, no. And I'm sure you guys have done that more than once, where you've changed that last minute plane flight. You just stayed. Well, clearly you said you meant to go for 2 months. You stayed for a number of years. So here becomes an interesting question of all the places. First of all, do you know how many countries you've been to at this point? Okay, yeah, I'm going to let you hear the answer, how many countries, all this stuff, the traveling, etc. But there's something that I want you to catch. Some of you may have an idea that you want something that you think is currently outside the realm of your possibility. Here's the thing. There was a time where I wanted a Lamborghini. I know, I just grew up, I liked Lamborghinis, they look cool. And I was like, a long time in my head, I was like, man, it'll be great one day to be able to have a Lamborghini. And in my head, I was like, man, that's like $250,000 plus, et cetera, plus, given my size, we're going to have to do some customization, so we're going to have some more money. Here's the point. If you're thinking like, man, it's $250,000, until I get $250,000, I can't have a Lamborghini, you may not ever get to the point of making a Lamborghini possible, dare I say probable, for you. So what else can you do? You can break it down into something that's more likely to happen. For example, $250,000. If you wanted to finance a house that's, depending on the interest rates, etc., let's call it $1,800 a month, right? The point is, $1,800 a month seems a lot more achievable than $250,000. When you break it down in terms of cash flow, the cash flow required, sometimes the goals that we're searching for are well, keyword, well within our reach. I hope, if nothing else, from listening to Billy and Akaisha, that's exactly what you are getting. Now, if you want more crazy ideas like that, feel free to download a copy of the book, Cashflow Diary, 10 Steps to Creating Wealth in Any Economy. You can go over to cashflowdiary.com/free book. Again, that's cashflowdiary.com/free book. Or if you're on a mobile device right now, send a text message to 72000. That's 72000, 72000. The keyword is book, BOOK. Now, let's go find out how many countries they've visited.
Dozens, but we don't keep track of them like that. We try to see as many that are interesting to us. We go back often to the same places because there's a connection there. And so I would say there's a couple dozen anyway.
Got it. Sure. Do you have is there a favorite?
Here, which in Guatemala, this is one of the most beautiful countries that we've been in a long time. And also a place called Chapala, Mexico, where we spent all those years, where we have great friendships with Mexicans and expats. It happens to be the largest expat community in the world.
Oh.
Yeah, many people don't know that in the States.
Asia's gorgeous.
Asia is wonderful, and the healthcare over there is fabulous. The food is awesome. So it's just kind of wherever we are, it seems to be our favorite at the time.
You're like, where am I? This is good. Yeah, so I got that. Now, I had the I guess, privilege of growing up in a military family, which is also code for not in the U.S. In a lot of cases. And so I've seen other countries and other places. I guess for the person who may not have traveled outside of the U.S. that's listening right now, it is figuring out how to get your expenses down and make this lifestyle kind of work. If this is something they want to do, in your opinion, knowing everything you know today, should they do it? Is it still possible for them to do it, even though, incomes are different, expenses are different? Is it fundamentally worth it?
From an expense side, most definitely. Jay, we just updated at the end of 2014. We updated our expenses for the last 25 years or 24 years, excuse me, and I can't remember how many days that is, but thousands of days. And we came out that we're averaging like $22,000 a year in our expenses, and that's after flying all over the world and pretty much. I mean, we don't budget; we just monitor our spending and make sure it's a certain percentage of our net worth, no more. And my point is that financially they can do it. Now, whether I recently heard a statistic that only 38% of Americans have passports, and I just shake my head when I hear that.
Wow, I didn't know that was that low.
And probably a lot of those are just to go on a cruise to Puerto Vallarta or to Cancun.
Especially if they're coming from California.
Exactly. And, there's a big world out there, and there's a lot of different cultures, and there's a lot of ways to live a life. And for us, we're like kids in a candy store. Like we walk outside here, and in the street right below us, there's Mayan ladies carrying baskets on their head, dressed up in their traditional garb.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to see that in L.A. Well, maybe you are.
Well, hey, yeah. It's possible, but it wouldn't. It would be out of place, is what you really mean. In this instance, it doesn't have the same effect. I got it.
Correct.
I got it. So I guess, why do you think? What's in the way? What would it take? I'm a corporate worker today, so talk to me. Tell me, all right, Jay, you want to do this? Here's what you got to do.
Buy a one-way ticket and fly in and make it work.
I think also, yeah, that he goes for it. I think that if you had confidence in the fact, and the amount of money that you spend, the amount of things that you need, like I had mentioned previously about housing, transportation, taxes, and food. If you knew that you had options for your housing, if you knew that you could go out your door and have transport, affordable transport to anywhere you wanted to go, if you knew you could get a steak and French fries and something to drink for like $3, if you knew that you could actually afford it and still be comfortable and satisfied, I think that it would appeal more. I think a lot of people don't know that that's actually available because we pay so much more for things in the States. We are really encumbered with our financial infrastructure. We have to own, we have to have a lot of stuff. But when you let go of that and be creative, it actually frees you up for a different type of life.
So I'm guessing at this point, you like, I mean, in my head, I'm trying to picture you guys, and I'm going, do they have more than one suitcase each, or?
Well, one thing we do is that we do like the warmer climates. So, like, for us to go to Alaska or the Yukon, or even like for Switzerland for any length of time, we'd have to buy clothing. We'd have to get jackets and gloves and scarves and hats and so on. But generally speaking, we do have about one suitcase, one rollie each, and a carry-on bag, and all of our, we go where the weather suits our clothes, and that's what we do.
If we need clothes, we have them made. I just had
or buy them.
Or buy them. I just had shorts here made for myself, and I don't know. I think they cost $10 or $8. Tailored made.
Of course, I love it, and I guess in this particular instance, so. Does technology make this easier for you guys in any way, shape, or form?
By far, yes. By far. That has been the biggest plus to our lifestyle. Like I'd mentioned earlier, in '91 there was no internet, and so online banking wasn't available, and online stock trading wasn't available. So everything was paper back then. So definitely, yeah.
Okay. So I'm trying to come up with the excuses that someone would give, and so I'm grasping at straws here because you've knocked almost everything out of the park. I mean, what about medical services? I mean,
yes.
Oh yeah.
Medical.
Oh yeah. They don't know anything about doctors down here. They're witch doctors down
here. we have been proponents of medical tourism for decades, and we have found excellent medical care in a variety of countries that is accessible and affordable. We've received first-class care. We've had accidents, and we've become ill. We've had the flu. We've had emergencies where we had to get taken to the hospital. I had an operation on my finger. I degloved my finger 3 years ago, which included I could have lost my hand. All of that is been taken care of out of the U.S. for just a minimal amount of money. We think that healthcare is a lot more affordable and accessible overseas than it is in our own home country.
And the quality of care is better. I think this is our personal opinion. I'm going to say we think in the term healthcare in the U.S. the term care has been taken out of the equation, and the amount of care we receive in these foreign countries is absolutely amazing. They actually care about you, to where they'll give you their home cell number to follow up with. The doctors will, the surgeons will, and ask you, please call me in 10 days to let me know how you're doing.
I kind of knew you were going to say something like that because I traveled to Belize before, and while I was there, I carrying all my camera equipment and everything that I was, there to do, needed a chiropractor really, really bad. And the interesting thing that happened is he came to the hotel room.
Perfect.
I didn't have to go to him.
Isn't that great?
He came to the hotel room, and even you're not going to get that in the U.S. And B, it was just as good, if not better, and it was about 25% the cost.
Yes.
Even though, and he himself was from the U.S., so it's like, okay, this is just it just kind of blew my mind. I'm like, because when I called him, he was like, yeah, just sit right there, wait. I'm like, what do you? I didn't even understand that I didn't have to go to him. It didn't make sense. It's like, what do you mean? I'm supposed
I'll be there.
Right. And he's like, I'm like, is he really going to show up? It's kind of like, it's almost like, is the pizza delivery guy really coming? Yeah. Wow, this is awesome. I like it. So
Exactly.
I can concur with a lot of what you're saying. So then, why do you think more people don't do this?
Fear. I think that holds them
Of
back.
what? Of what? Fear of what? I mean,
Something new.
Yeah.
I think for some people too, they want to be close to family and the friendships that they have developed over the years. And this is where
but we have
Skype
FaceTime. I was going to say we have Skype and FaceTime now. So technology, I mean, my kids are always talking to grandma and grandpa every day. It's like, good morning, grandma and grandpa. It's only been 8 hours since I saw you last. I mean, so it's not like it used to be in that sense. So, I mean, is there anything to actually be afraid of or prepared for anyone that wants to actually figure this thing out? It sounds as though there's nothing in the way. The barrier, I mean, you didn't have the internet and online banking. And when you said that, I was like, how on earth did he manage to make that work? That sounds crazy to me.
Yeah.
Okay. One thing is that we are U.S. citizens, and I'd have to say that is a very fortunate opportunity to be able to make money in the United States, because that's the place to make money. Once you make the money and you got it invested, then you can go anywhere in the world. But I mean, reasonably, and that's it. So there's some fear that holds people back from just cutting loose and moving on. I got to tell you though, just between you and us, there's a whole lot more people doing it now than when we did it.
Yeah. And that's definitely a trend that I've been paying attention to. But you just said something that I know somebody was thinking it. You're telling me you still got the blue passport. You did not.
Sure.
You did not renounce citizen. You don't have to renounce your citizenship to do any of these things. You can totally make it all work. I don't know if there's another. What else? Is there another excuse that people come up with?
I think people like their routines. I think they like going to their favorite restaurants, their favorite places to shop for food and get their car fixed or whatever. They like their neighborhood. I think they like their routines. And when you start traveling the world or you live in a foreign country, they're not always that routine. It's an adventure of the day.
Exactly. It's always like we'll give you an example, Jay, that doesn't happen too often in the States, but it does happen. And that is, this was a planned outage. So the day before, sitting at my favorite coffee shop, my friends tell me, oh, by the way, tomorrow the power is going to be out from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Okay.
Okay. That means no internet, Jay.
Yeah. I believe me. I read through that line going, uh-oh.
Gasp.
So I immediately text Akaisha and say, what day was that interview? Because I just learned this on Monday, And anyway, so so yesterday it was really quiet around town. It was actually quite nice.
Right.
This whole lake area had no power, and they replaced poles and transformers, so they do it all in one day.
Got it. But there's still cell phone service, right?
Cell phone service, yes.
Yeah, so you can still get online through your cell phone if you really, really, really had to.
If you really have to, you can use that.
It's not like you were really. See, you notice how I had to find a way to get to my little safety blanket of the internet. Don't take my internet away from me. It's all good. It's all good. So, do you have kids?
No, we don't.
Oh,
we really admire parents. That's a job. That's a full-time job. I really admire a parent. Yeah, definitely.
Well, if you want to, but we know families that travel with kids around the world.
Wow.
And so that's, what an education. There's a family that has 5 kids, and we met them here. They've lived in Costa Rica for about a year, and now they're in Germany.
Their kids know different languages. They homeschool these kids. The world is their school. We actually know families are doing it more and more often all the time.
Yes.
Whether they sail around the world, or whether they land travel, or whatever it is that they do, it's an awesome way to teach your child.
Yeah, they'd have to learn a lot of. Wow, I'm sorry. I'm imagining my 4-year-old right now.
There you go.
Woo, buddy.
She'd pick up Spanish here in no time.
Yeah, she'd be bilingual, trilingual in no time at all.
Yeah, you probably great. I already have enough trouble there speaking English. I don't need another language to go through for them. Here's the question. I'm guessing, this is a change of lifestyle. We're talking a change of culture. We're talking of change of just everything, not just time zone, and I'm guessing at this point you've developed a number of tips and tricks and things that can help someone prepare for this. If someone wanted to get more information from you guys and figure out, hey, this might be for me, what would be the best way for them to do that?
I'd have them come to our website, retireearlylifestyle.com. We have a digital bookstore that they can take a look at. We have 7 books, mostly on travel and some on investing and lifestyle. And they can always write to us at the guide@retireearlylifestyle.com. We answer all of our email. We have a ton of articles and things that we've written on traveling, how to pack, where to go, what to do, and so on, and advice on how to manage your finances and this sort of thing. So I would suggest that if anybody's interested, that they go to our website and contact us.
Got it. Thank you. Now, you said I don't know, it sounds weird when you say how to pack. It sounds like you just walk out the door and go, the way.
Well, that's what Billy does. Got Girls do it differently.
Got it.
Girls like to have things that match.
You remember those favorite shoes of yours, Jay? They got to go with you, man.
Right. Okay. It just sounded weird for a second. Pack. Oh my God. It doesn't sound like it. Sounds like I can just get up and leave right now and just go to the airport and take the next plane.
Well, you could. That'd be a great story. Because you land here and you immediately go to a used clothing store and you can be outfitted in a matter of an hour.
Yeah. Wow. As I said, guys, paradigm shifting. So here's a question. Let's pretend for a second that there's someone listening right now who, maybe they're standing in front of that superhero outfit store for the first time. They're thinking, I want to be an entrepreneur. I'd like retirement eventually, all of those types of things, but they're still, they got that voice, and that voice I'm talking about. They got that voice going on in the back of their head. What would you say to them right now?
Move forward. When you hit a Y in the road, you got to take it. There's no wrong answer. You're never going to know unless you go ahead and take that first step and get out of your comfort zone. And so I think that you can always figure it out. You can always go back if you have to. My guess is they won't.
Got it.
And they're going to, the worst case scenario, they're going to have stories and tales to tell for the rest of their lives.
And the best case scenario is that they'll have their whole life opened up. We say, don't let fear hold you back.
Got it. I like it. And I agree 1,000%. I thank you guys for, literally taking the bull by the horn when it was probably way scarier to do so. And doing it and making it happen and paving that way, blazing that trail, and leaving the breadcrumbs behind so that, others can follow. And honestly, for taking the time to invest with us here at the Cashflow Diary.
Thank you, Jay.
So much.
And we'd like to say that if we can do it, so can you. And I mean, we're not trust fund babies or anything like that. We just did it. We did it our way, and we continue to do it our way. So if we can do it, so can you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean today? It means retireearlylifestyle.com. You think about this concept of retirement and you'd like to retire. It should almost say, will you ever retire.com. But here's the point. You found some individuals who have figured out a way to do it, and you've heard the numbers they were talking about, and I know there's a number of you who are like, well, maybe I can make this work for me. Go to their site, figure it out, get the tools and resources you need, make something happen, and live the rest of your life on purpose. Guys, it's been fun talking to you today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.